Welcome to Back Talk, the premier podcast from successful Black Parenting Magazine, featuring in depth conversations and expert insights on crucial topics for Black families. We are ranked one of the top 4 Black family podcasts on FeedSpot. I'm your host, Janice Robinson Celeste. Who was the first dad on television that you remember seeing, and how did that shape your image of Black fatherhood? Or did it at all? Today, we're speaking with Anthony E. Williams, founder and CEO of WMZ Entertainment. He is on a mission to provide positive representation of Black fathers in entertainment. Stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
This is Back Talk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine, the most listened to podcast for parents by parents.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into Back Talk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine, your go-to talk show for parents. Share our podcast with your friends, shout it out to your followers, because sharing is truly caring. And don't forget to use hashtag BackTalk when you post. Today, on this special edition of Back Talk, I'm speaking with Anthony E. Williams. He is the founder and CEO of WMZ Entertainment and works professionally as an actor, a writer, and a producer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
Well, introduce yourself, because I didn't do you any justice with that introduction. You have done so much. Please tell everyone about all your accolades.
Well, my name is Anthony E. Williams. I have a background in business. I'm an MBA from the University of Houston, and I come from corporate America, from GE, Firestone, LG, PepsiCo, lots of big name companies. And I had a dream at the age of 32 to become an actor. Very much an uphill battle. And so I got some agents and couldn't get any traction. So I decided to make I guess I would call it my Rockefeller Records, right? It's my WMZ Entertainment. And my first album, if you will, was F.A.M. And so the first TV show that I've ever been on was my own. I felt like there was a missing niche for a positive Black story about a blended family in our community that wasn't about just being Black. It was just about being a family. And so I wrote it, and I produced it, and then I got my good friend Kyle Romnick to direct it, and we put together a crew in Atlanta, Georgia. We've won 15 awards. I've gotten 4 for Best Acting. And we have been invited and included in over 50 film festivals. And I want to think last I checked was in 10 different countries. I mean, so it's been a huge outpouring of acceptance for that. I'm still working on getting that sold and getting it on Netflix or the right platform. But since then, I've been on shows like The Equalizer. I've guest starred a couple of times on Law and Order SVU. I've been on FBI 3 times, and New Amsterdam, BT's Sisters, and Nickelodeon's Young Dylan, just to name a few. And I'm in the upcoming Tyler Perry film on Netflix that drops June 6th called Straw. So the thing I want to tell people and young creators is that, if representation matters, if you don't see yourself on that TV, then you need to write yourself on that TV. And I'll call it the power of the pen, right? So if you don't see what you want, you're going to have to write your own role. So with I've been in 15, 20, I can't remember how many TV and film projects, especially at that network level now, and including Power, which is a big one that everybody loves. But the first TV show I was on was F.A.M. that I wrote, produced, and paid for myself. And so, if you really want it, this is how you do it. And then this is how I had to do it. They wouldn't open the door, so I had to create one. And there's an old Jay-Z saying, if they don't give you heaven, then you have to raise hell. And that's what I felt like I was doing when I made F.A.M. I'm raising hell so I can get into heaven. And it's been a journey. It's not over, but I love to use this story to encourage other people. And then as far as my writing, that F.A.M. is 90% based on my real life and my relationship with my daughter, my ex, and my wife, and how complicated a day in the life would be. So when I went down, I'm like, how can I write the perfect show for me, showcase my talent? I was like, okay, I'm just going to take a couple of stories from my actual life, and truth can be stranger and more entertaining than fiction sometimes.
Absolutely. Now, you are also a dad, as you mentioned. So you have a daughter?
Yes, I do. I have a daughter who just recently graduated last Saturday from the University of North Carolina, A&T. She's an Aggie.
Wow.
I believe the biggest HBCU in America, but I don't know those stats.
Well, you have to be an inspiration to her. I am sure of that. She sees your success, and I'm sure that is, I mean, inspirational and also encouraging. So,
You
what
would
does she?
think, I think now she likes it, especially
Yeah,
now on TV and films. But I was the embarrassing dad and the silly commercials when she was younger. But it's just gonna sound so cliche, but no, she's my inspiration. I mean, when I started acting, she must have been 12, 10, between 10 and 12. And, she was like, yeah, be an actor, dad, because she was a child. So while my parents and her mother and everyone was, this is ridiculous. You just graduated grad school. My daughter was like, yeah, you can do it. It's that childlike feeling that I still have to this day. I was talking to someone the other day and I mentioned, when I get on set, it's like when you see a bunch of, remember we were younger days where there'd be 3 bikes outside of someone's house, they're inside playing.
yeah.
That's how it feels when I pull up the set. Like we're inside playing right now. That same childlike feeling is what I bring to everything. And that's because I've been with a child for the past 21 years and growing up with her, and keeping that mentality is very important to your inner child when you have kids.
That's a great analogy. I like that. I like that. Now, we always start off the show with an icebreaker before we get into the nitty gritty. And the icebreaker is tell our audience something that not many people know about you.
Not many people know about me. I'll say this. It's going to sound funny now that I'm older, but I was once kissed by Halle Berry.
It's funny because I have the same kind of thing that I say, but mine is Will Smith.
Oh, there you go. It's even
Hilarious. Can you give us a little bit of backstory on that one?
My father, so I grew up in the suburbs. My father, similar to what I'm doing with film, felt like there was a lack of collectivity amongst the African Americans in Strongsville, Ohio. So we put together a team called Genesis. And, it was kind of like our own version of Jack and Jill, where the Black people in the community would come together and have a barbecue and talk about issues and things of that nature. And I was probably 6, 7. And she was Miss Ohio at the time, and she had the sash and everything.
Yeah.
And my dad was talking to me. He's like, she's gonna go to Hollywood and be famous. And then I was talking to her. She's like, oh, you're so cute. She kissed me on my cheek, and
Aww.
I was like, everything I saw her on Maybelline commercials and movies, and I always thought to myself, all you gotta do is go to California and become famous. That's all.
It's that easy. Yeah.
That easy.
That easy. Just go. All right. So you're about inclusion and representation and showing Black families in positive light. I love that. Thinking back to your own childhood, who was the first dad that you remember seeing on television? And did that image help shape any views of fatherhood for you?
I'll tell you this, and I think you'll catch it. I'm not going to say his real name. I'm going to say his actor name, because his name was Cliff Huxtable.
Oh, yes.
And Cliff Huxtable has not done anything wrong. So let's keep that pure on that TV station for those 8 seasons. But yeah, he was the first TV dad because there was some realism there. Remember my favorite episode where the son was like, Theo was like, maybe I'm just supposed to be regular. Maybe I'm just not supposed to be a doctor or a lawyer like you. And I was like, yeah, like I was under a lot of pressure. My parents both had a master's degrees from Johns Hopkins, and I was like really feeling it. And Cliff said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And so that type of harsh love, but always wanting the best out of your kids is important. And I like that sometimes that show didn't go the way that you thought it was supposed to go. It wasn't always soft and cuddly like, TGI Friday on ABC. So that's what I liked about the Cosby Show.
No, I absolutely remember that as one of the first dads as well. And I'm from Philly, went to Temple University, so he was all up in there. So he was highly respected at that time, and I know things have gone downhill, but the show is still pure, like you said, and it is a great show even to watch today. And you talked earlier about what inspired you to create WMZ Entertainment, and a little bit about F.A.M. Can you talk a little bit more about what you hope to happen with F.A.M? I know we talked about like hopefully you can get it on different networks and things
Yes.
like that. Where do you want to see that go?
It's so funny. It's such a catch-22. So I created it, and of course you say you want to sell it and you want to get it out there, and everybody wants you to have a leading actor, someone who's recognizable. So that's frustrating. So I was like, well, I won some awards. And once I won the awards, nothing happened. And then I got into 50 festivals, and what I wanted to happen did not transpire. Then what slowly started to happen is that I myself as an actor have gotten on bigger and bigger shows to the point where now we're talking about Netflix, and I was on a red carpet for Screamboat, a horror film that I recently did. And suddenly now, instead of F.A.M working for me, I feel like I'm working for F.A.M. So as my star starts to rise, I get some more exposure. I then will now be the person from Law and Order to Nickelodeon selling this Black dramedy that I feel the world needs to see. And it's been very humbling for it to serve me, and for me to serve it. So I talk about it like it's a living thing because it's my baby.
It is. It is a living thing. It's a entity now. Now, let me ask you, what's your favorite genre of movies? Like you talked about horror. You did horror,
I'm not even, yeah, I'm definitely love drama. I love
drama.
relationships. I love severe dialogue where it's not about necessarily where you are, it's about what you're going through.
Yeah.
And one thing about F.A.M, and I know the world hasn't seen it yet, but I think we had 3 locations the whole shot. And it was, 30-minute sitcom dramedy, but you feel like you went so many different places because of all the relationships and how deep the conversations are between myself and the daughter and the wife and the ex-wife and this tangled web of relationships. And I think that people get caught up in the blowing up or the shootouts and oh, this is going to look great. And it's like, yeah, maybe it does look great, but what really pulls on me when I watch something is how it makes me feel, and that comes from the dialogue.
Right, right. And guys, I saw the pilot for FAM, and I got to tell you, it's so well done and so interesting. This storyline, oh my gosh, I can't wait for you to see it. So make sure you check it out when it's released, because I know I had to have a password to go see it. So
Right.
when will it be released, or will it be released? Are you holding it for something like Netflix?
Yeah, I'm holding it for the right platform that sees the
Okay.
vision. And like most producers, when they're also artists, it's something that similar to Issa Rae. That I want to be leading in Insecure, so I want to be in the project to take that
Hmm.
home. I think what's funny is just now I'm deserving of that, right? So now that I'm a recurring guest star and I'm on all these projects, it makes more sense for an HBO or for a Netflix or Hulu to say, yeah, you can star in this. That makes sense. You've done the work. You've got your 10,000 hours. When I created it, I had 0 hours. I had not one co-star. I said when I created F.A.M and WMZ Entertainment, I couldn't book a plane ticket. And so, like I said, it's a full circle moment. So I don't know when it's going to be released. I hope it's going to be big, but I think the world needs to see it because I think it's missing today.
I agree. I agree 100%. And as we talked about representation earlier, you took it a step further and you're telling a story of a blended family of color. So
Yes.
why was that important to you?
So I obviously have a blended family. My mother came from a blended family, and I just see on TV and radios and podcasts and pop the balloon of this notion of baby daddies and baby mamas and child support and negativity. And I'll never forget, I was in a meeting for GE, and I had a boss who was a director, and he did $300 million in business. And someone asked him about his kids. He goes, "So yes, I have three girls, 2 with my current wife, and 1 from a previous relationship." And that was the end of it. There was no negativity. There was no drama. There was no um, ghetto euphemisms made. It was just a fact that he had a child from a previous relationship and that everything was fine and co-parenting. And I go see her this often, and that was it. And I'm like, why don't we talk like that? Why don't we say, why can't I be in the barbershop and say, hey, I got 4 kids, 3 with my
Mhm.
wife now and 1 from a previous relationship? It does not have to be a negative thing. And one of the things my father taught me very early on when me and my daughter's mother broke up is like, hey, listen, if you're not together, then don't be together. And that allowed me to focus on my child. And so I think I became a much better dad. I was a dad. I became a super dad the day that we broke up because I spent no energy with that relationship and the back and forth with her mother. It was all towards her. And any argument or disagreement we had, it was about what was best for her, never about us. And I think it allowed me to have good, positive relationships outside of that. And, now I'm happily married and all of these things. And she's now engaged and everything is great. And our whole family was together at my daughter's graduation. But that distance between her and her mother romantically allowed me to be a much more intimate father. And I think that's something that I've talked about in barbershops where I don't go very often anymore, but that people find very kind of off-putting and surprising. I don't allow people to say baby daddy or baby mama around me. I think that's it's a backward mindset. And I think sometimes if we change the words that we use, we can also change the feelings that we have and change our circumstances.
Well, what words do you use?
Mother of my child, or my ex, or from a previous relationship.
Okay.
Anything that is positive and factual, that doesn't allude to negative stereotypes that are constantly perpetuated on TV and media. And sometimes, a lot of times, the people behind those shows or songs might not even look like us. And I think that we assume that's how we all think, but maybe we need to look at who's holding the megaphone sometimes.
Yes, yes. What advice would you give to parents out there who are going through co-parenting? They might not be doing it well, maybe they are, but what would you say to them?
I try to, let me think about this. I don't have a canned answer, but I really try to, if I was my daughter, what would I want to have happen? Because we get so consumed by our perspective, right? Our perspective, our viewpoint, and it clouds your judgment, and it clouds, there's egos, and there's sensitivity, and there's hurt, and there's pain. And I've been separated from my ex for 20 years. It's still hurt and pain when we get into argument, and old things can come up. But if you think about it, I think about it from my daughter's point of view. Oh, my daughter wants to have a graduation party and everyone's being there. Well, there's a lot of family drama, and this happened, and things went down 15, 20 years ago, and they said I wasn't going to be this. No, if I'm my daughter, I want everyone there and having a good time. I'm going to do things from my daughter's perspective, and I'm going to serve her vision of how her perfect life can be. Or I remember when I used to go with my daughter and my ex to parent teacher conference night. So we would go to parent teacher conference night, and then afterwards, the three of us would go have dinner. Well, then that happened once a year. My mother and my grandmother were like, "Are you crazy, boy? You're married. You can't be doing things like that." But in my daughter's perspective, that's the only time she gets to have dinner with her parents. No grandparents, no other friends. It doesn't matter whether we're married or not. She gets to have one night where she has dinner with her mom and dad. From her perspective, that's a perfect night. And so we try to focus, both me and my ex try to focus on her perspective.
Okay. Well, that was a great way to stay connected during an event. But when she was younger, you mentioned that it made you a better dad, like once you were
Yes.
able to focus on her. So how did you stay connected with her when she was younger, and how does that, I guess, differ from now? She's an adult, and how do you stay connected with her now?
It's a funny thing. So when she was younger, I definitely, everyone makes sacrifices. My sacrifices pale in comparison to the sacrifices my ex made. But I moved around a lot. I was always, chasing corporate America. But I spent the first year back in Strongsville, Ohio, even though I graduated from UNC Charlotte, just really bonding with her. And I think, I think it was actually her aunt, her aunt, her aunt Shannon, who told me is that the first year is the most important, and the bonding of physical touch and intimacy, and her knowing my smell, and me constantly being there in the first year. And I feel like that foundation helped keep us close. Always plan visits, making sure she knew ahead of time. She used to do a countdown of 5 days before: 4 more days till dad's here, 3 more days till dad's here. And then when I was there, it was all with me. So there was no back and forth with her mother. She would be with me for the whole weekend or for the whole week. And then as she got older, we started to plan dad trips. She'd come out to LA with me for a week, or we would go to New York for a week. Even she took acting classes in New York City, or we would go stay in New Jersey or the Bahamas. She went with us with a family trip, with even my wife and her family on a family trip to the Bahamas. So making sure that, she's number one. And that's something that's very difficult when you get married. Like, hey, I love you very much. You're my world, but you are my number two. And that's not everybody can take that conversation. But you have to have that conversation. I can't get married and treat my wife like she's number one and keep my daughter number one. As she got older and got into college, which is funny, after 18, she got more expensive very, very quickly. And so there was no decline in financial responsibility, and moving in and out of dorms, and conversation about boys or girls or whoever she's with and going through. I mean, I feel like that first bond from that first year came back more when she was outside of the house, and that there was no one had to plan a visit. Nobody had to tell her to come over to see me or anything. And not that happened often, but teenage years were very rough. But I think, though, once she was out on her own after 18, I truly shine more as a father, because everything can now be seen as he's doing it because he wants it, and that's his heart. And who knows what was being said or what the understanding was of before she was 18 of what intention was as a father. And I know that's kind of a sad thing to say, but it's a very honest thing to say, right? So
Yeah.
if you're not 18 yet and you're seeing your father a certain amount of time and he's providing you financially, one could assume or one could say, oh, well, he has to do that. Then after 18 to 21, and there's cars and there's dorms and apartments, and he loves me. Oh, this is who he is. And I think that once that recognition happened, probably around 17, the bond got stronger. So
Wow, it's a lovely story actually that she noticed and
it's
she
a
knows.
hard story.
Yeah,
Love
I believe
it.
it. I believe it. Now, you went from corporate sales and self-teaching engineering to
Yes.
like booking 8 shows in 16 months. Like an accomplishment all by itself that not many people get to experience.
Thank
But
you.
looking back on it, how has that journey influenced you and your family?
Oh, it's a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Man, I took a job, a tough job in New York City. I won't mention the company, but it didn't go well, and there were race issues there. And I kept playing the 50 Cent song, "I Gotta Make It to Heaven" by Going Through Hell. And I actually, within 100 days, I lost the job after getting moved from Atlanta, Georgia, to New York City. We had just, I think it was 5 days after we bought a house in Westchester. Now I have no income, and I just remember driving to work every day, though, going, man, it's right here. New York is right here. This is my dream. And I remember just praying that morning, God, please get me out of my circumstance. I want to act and I can't do that. I got to be at this 9 to 5. I got to be there all day long. I'm driving to Long Island 3 hours a day. And then I was driving to work, driving through Brooklyn. I'm like, I should be on set. Lord, please just get involved. And then as soon as I said that, the phone rang. It was my boss. And I was like, ooh, not today, Jesus. And so what happened was once I lost my job, I focused 100%, similar with my daughter. Once I didn't have that distraction, I focused 100% on acting. And I got Nickelodeon's Young Dylan guest star. Then I got The Blacklist. Then I got Power. Then I got FBI. And it just started to all roll in. And I was like, wow, the power of your mind and the power of your intention and the power of what your focus is and the frequency that you're on. I mean, these aren't buzzwords that make people feel good. These are real things that really happen, and they can change your life quickly. And so I've just learned to keep my intention and my focus and have a pure heart, be open to the universe, but it will do some things you don't want it to do to get you where you want to go.
So let me get this straight. The buzzword affirmation was, please, Lord, get involved.
Get
That's all
involved.
we have
I
to
can't
say.
get out of this myself. I can't just go quit my job.
Yes, I need to know the exact term because I want to turn that on. Okay, I was like, please.
I
Lord.
find if I'm ever down on both knees, with hands on the ground praying, I don't know, maybe that's an antenna to the universe or the man upstairs. But when I do that, he gets involved swiftly and quickly, and often not the way I want him to. So.
Okay. Well, it's a journey either way.
Yes, it is. It's a journey either way, but I think you're going to have to go through sacrifices. It's not perfect. And when I was 32 and I told my wife I should be acting right now, and she turns to me and she gave me two options. She said, listen, you can either accept your fate that you're a businessman and this is what you want to do and deal with that, or you can go after it and you can start taking classes and start working towards being an actor. But what you can't do is be married in this house at 32 years old and talk about what you could have, would have, should have done, because that's just sad. And that was what kickstarted my motion. And then talking to my daughter, who has a childlike mind, because she was a child, was like, yeah, Dad, you can get on TV. You'll get to see Will Smith. And I haven't gotten there yet, but she definitely got a kick out of me being on The Equalizer with Queen Latifah and arguing with Vincent on Law and Order. So I've proved a lot of naysayers within my own house wrong, which is a good thing.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. Now, just touch a little bit on this self-teaching of engineering. What?
So my father's an electrical engineer. He went to North Carolina A&T, and he's a graduate of Johns Hopkins University. Extremely smart man. I was always a clever man. I was always the storyteller. I was always the childlike person. And I ended up getting an interview with Eaton Electrical. They have a very robust training program. I'd had like 4 jobs in 1 year. Back when I moved back to Ohio, I got a lot of jobs quickly and a lot of things happened. And I was just going to handle the distribution and stuff like that. But there was engineers all throughout the office. And so they took a liking to me down in Houston, Texas, and this young Black kid willing to do whatever it took. I was buying coffee and donuts, and I was getting people's cars washed. You name it, I would do it. And then finally a position opened up, and it was as an engineer with a major customer in the office. People in the office said, listen, we got your back. And they would pop the rubber band, show me how to take off the job and one step at a time. And I had some training, but not the technical training. And before you knew it, I was like the #1 sales engineer in the country for single family residential. And I took that to acting too. I don't know how to become an actor, but you got to ask questions. You got to find those people in your office willing to mentor you and show you the way. Paula Newsome is an actress who was on CSI Vegas, who's a close family friend, and she gave me the best acting advice ever. I said, I was just getting started, and I've known her almost my whole life. And I said, yo, you're on all these shows and guest star and all that other stuff. Can you just introduce me to your agent? And then maybe I can get on. And she says, yeah, that's no problem. I can do that. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And she said, here's all I need from you. I need you to get a reel together from student films, commercials, and TV. Then I need you to get like 3 or 4 co-stars. I said, okay, 3 or 4 co-stars. And then I want you to start guest starring, okay? And then once you start guest starring, I want you to recur those guest stars and then put that together in a reel and then send that to me and I'll take it to my agent. I was like, well, if I had co-stars and I had a reel and I had a guest star and I had multiple guest stars, I wouldn't need an introduction to your, she said, exactly. So she gave me all the tools to be successful, but she didn't hand me an opportunity I wasn't ready for.
Wow. That's deep. That is really deep.
Yeah.
I want to go back a little bit to F.A.M. because one of the things I noticed, and you had through this interview, you mentioned music a couple of times.
Yes.
The music in F.A.M. is also very good. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And who are these people? Because I don't recognize a lot of the songs. Or
well, a lot of the songs are borrowed. We'll say borrowed because
okay.
I'm just using it to show my concept. But one song that I had to, there's an old story with Jay-Z is Hard Knock Life.
Yeah.
And it was the Annie song. And he called, he wrote a letter to the producers of the song and told them why he needed the beat. And it was, he didn't tell them he was going to be talking about, what he was doing in Marcy Projects. But I really liked God, what is the name of the song? It's the Stay Woke song by Childish Gambino and a Redbone. And so I emailed the record label. And right when I emailed them, they said, yes, let's get involved. That's your project. They saw the project and then they were say, okay, well, you have to pay us and the publisher. This was the rate. And then they went silent for a second and he won a Grammy with that song. So then the rate went up 300%.
Oh, no.
You pay for a large artist, something on the radio to do a showcase, which is for the film festivals. For my film festival run, I had a Universal Music certificate for the rights to Redbone to use that in my show. Everything else I use, now I have commercial music, but I would plug in with indie artists and people I've met. But Redbone, all through the film festival would be playing. You could see the whole audience like, Redbone in there? I always had the certificate in my phone if somebody called me out on it. But that mentality from engineering that I just need to learn and I just need to ask and I just keep knocking on doors. And I'll never forget running around the house, beating my chest and screaming when I got the okay from Universal Music Group. Yes, you have the rights to Redbone for X amount of time for your festival run. And I was just like, man, you can do anything if you put your mind to it.
That's great. That's great advice. And to keep asking. Is there one on-screen fatherhood moment from any show or any movie that resonated with you personally as a dad? And if so, what made it so memorable for you?
So I'll give you 2 of them. One of them is going to be me because I wrote it. But the first one is the on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where when the dad wouldn't come home, he says, "Why don't he want me, man? Why don't he want me?" And Uncle Phil holds him and he cries. And historically, that was Will Smith's breakout moment. And I think James Avery, I believe is his name. I don't want to mess it up, but Uncle Phil whispered in his ear, "How you're acting," because it's that raw emotion. And you can't mess that up if you're genuine and you're genuine about that scene and what you're saying. And I always thought, man, I would love to do something that's that true. And even as a kid, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be laughing watching Fresh Prince. This is deep. And there's a line in F.A.M. where I say to my daughter, I said, my best day without you in it is by far worse than my worst day with you in it. Yeah. Basically saying that, without you in this world, it's really not worth it for me. Everything changed when you came here. And I think children need to know what you mean to them, because what they mean to you, because while we're so busy trying to protect them, we're also fussing at them. We're also talking at them. We're also not listening the best because we already know, we've already been there. And that was my time. No matter what happens to me, I can tell my daughter is like, listen, my worst day with you in this world is by far better than my best day without you. So don't ever let anybody tell you that this world isn't better off with you in it. And I think a lot of times, kids have insecurities and they get down and they think, this is my whole life here in the 8th grade. It's going to end now. And I always used to tell her, it's a segment. These are your 4 years of middle school. These are 4 years of college. No matter how bad it gets, it's 4 years. You're doing a bid. And now you're doing a bid before you go to grad school. But just really, like when Uncle Phil looked him in the eye and embraced them, 2 men hugging and he's crying, it's okay to cry. It's okay to have emotion. It's okay to fall into an elder's arms from time to time. And I think we have a lot of toxic masculinity that says otherwise. And so, with my scene, I wanted to be, that was kind of an inspiration for it, but I really wanted to speak from the heart. And I thought, 100 years from now, when my grandkids are watching F.A.M, they understand how their grandfather felt about his daughter.
No, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful line. And it should be like printed somewhere on somebody's wall for their children. It really was a great line. How can our audience learn more about your work and stay updated on your projects?
I'm Anthony E. Williams on Instagram. That's pretty much the only social that I use. And then, Anthony E. Williams everywhere. So on IMDb, my bio is there, and hopefully it continues to get updated with new storytelling. But, whatever I'm doing, I'm trying to represent a part of Black culture that maybe is forgotten or is not. I represent a part of Black culture, the kids that speak too properly, that they speak white, or that they're not like the rest of us, and their Black card should be revoked. It's like Kanye when he first had the backpack and the polo on. You don't look like the rest of us. And I try to represent a segment of Black America that's authentic, that is not continuously written about in cinema and on TV shows. And you take the show Forever that just came out on Netflix, that's phenomenal. Why is it phenomenal? It's phenomenal because it's great and it gets everything it should deserve, but it shouldn't be this unique. It's this unique because there's a missing niche for positive Black storytelling. And so whenever you see my name, whether it's on a predominantly white show or it's on BET with Tyler Perry, I'm trying to represent that niche that's missing in American cinema right now.
Well, that's fantastic. And we're going to follow you. I will follow you. Successful Black Parenting Magazine will follow you as well. And I want to thank you for coming on our show today. So thank you
so much. It's an honor and a privilege. And I just, I think I said this one time before with WMZ Entertainment, I want to change the narrative of Black cinema one frame at a time. That's
beautiful. And a big shout out to all of you watching the replay of this special edition of Back Talk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine. Be sure you follow us on social media. Click on everything. Follow, likes, ads. It all helps us to thrive. And until next time, I wish you all the best and much success. Take care. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to Back Talk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine. We'll see you soon.